Well, happy Wednesday evening to you, and no foolin', this is a ham radio class. The date that we're recording this on is April the 1st, so April Fool's Day. Anyway, we're concluding a beginning amateur radio class. We've been meeting on Wednesday nights for the past 9 weeks, and with some breaks in there, we had to, so maybe a little longer than that actually, but we've been working out of this book. I always show it, the American Radio Relay League License Manual for the technician class, but we don't have any chapters to go over tonight because we went over the last chapter last week. So our plan for tonight is together as a group to take practice tests, 2 practice tests tonight. Well, they're 35 question multiple choice tests. You'll take them at home there and grade your own paper and just see how you are doing and remembering. The beauty of practice tests is it helps you to break the forgetting curve that all humans have. We have a tendency to forget stuff after we've studied it and whatnot, so the practice tests are to help stimulate that. And when you get your license, and I know you will, then I want to make sure that you find a good local amateur radio club. Find a good ham club, if you take the laptop. Here is a URL from the American Radio Relay League, their Find a Club page, and you can put in information about your location and find a local amateur radio club. If you're going to be taking your test in person, well, that's a likely, it's likely being given by a club. So find out where and when they meet and go attend a meeting. Find like-minded people, and the signs of a good club is they're very welcoming for newcomers, for new members, for new hams. If they're not, well, then look for another club. There are good clubs out there, and I want you to be in one because they're going to help you then take the next big step, which is getting on the air. We want you to get on the air with your radio and use it, and that's when the real learning begins. So tonight, our first practice test is practice test number 19. Why do I say that? Well, so far we've taught this class a number of times, and we've built up practice tests over the years. And if you looked in the folder from last week for Chapter 9, you would have seen 18 practice tests already in that folder. And they're valid. You can use them to study for the test. All of the practice tests were developed using the American Radio Relay League's exam review website, this URL. If you don't already have a free membership there, go ahead and sign up, and you can take your own practice tests there for free. You don't have to be a member of the ARRL. So the process tonight is that we're going to have you get a blank sheet of paper, and we'll be numbering it 1 through 35. I want you to write down A, B, C, or D, whatever you think the right answer is. Note that when you take your actual test, these will be the questions and these will be the answers on the test. They won't be in the same order. So don't memorize A, B, C, or D. That will do you no good. You just but know what the answer is, however it's mixed up. Tonight we actually have more people watching on YouTube than we do in the Zoom classroom. That's quite all right. I'm going to go through at a pace that I think is okay for us. Terry, who's in the Zoom classroom, if I go too fast, just unmute and tell me, Gary, slow down. I'll be happy to do that. I want to wish you the best of luck. I won't be reading the questions or the answers. I'll have you read them yourselves. If we get a third person in the Zoom classroom, then I can spotlight myself to make the image bigger. But we only have 2 folks in there at the moment, and they won't let me do that. So this is what we've got. So here we are. Here's question number 1, and I wish you the very best of luck. So that is question number 1. Here is question number 2. Next up is question 3. Here is question number 4. When you take your multiple choice test in person, you'll have as much time as you need. But we're just kind of moving ahead because we have the video that we're producing here. So this is question number 4. And I can always go back to any questions at the end if we want to go back and review any. And there's Jeff is joining us, so now I can spotlight myself. So stand by. It's going to take a second here. Go over to the Zoom classroom. Hit the spotlight for everyone button. That makes it a little easier to read. This is question number 4. We can go back to questions 1, 2, and 3 when we get to the end here. All right, here's question number 5. And question number 6. And question number 7. And question number 8. And question number 9. Given some time so you can read it. All right, question 10. And now we have question 11. And here we go with question 12. Next up is question 13. And question 14. Question 15. And question 16. Question 17. And question 18. Question 19. We can always come back to any of these. And here is question 20. And now question 21. And question 22. Question 23. And now question 24. Question 25. And here we go with question 26. And question 27. Question 28. And next up, question 29. Question 30. And question 31. Here is question 32. Question 33. Question 34. And our final question is a pictorial or a schematic. what is component number 6? All right, and since I saw that Jeff didn't come in until question 4, I'm going to go back up and we're going to look at questions 1, 2, 3, and 4 again. And then if there's any others you'd like us to take a look at, we can do that as well. Here's question 1. And now question 2. And question 3. And question 4. So if you're in the Zoom classroom and you'd like me to go to another question, just unmute and tell me which one. If you're on YouTube, you could actually get in the chat and tell me there, but I don't see anybody in the chat tonight. All right, well, let's go see how we did. Sorry, this is not very elegant, but this is the only way I have of moving ahead, so just please stand by. All right, how did we do? So question number 1, under what circumstances is it safe to climb a tower without a helper or observer? Never. 1D. 2, what is the purpose of a squelch function? To mute the receiver audio when a signal is not present. 2A. And 3, what is the current in a circuit when an applied voltage of 120 volts and a resistance of 80 ohms? It's E divided by R, or 120 divided by 80 is 1.5 amps. 3B. 4, what frequency range is referred to as VHF? That's 30 megahertz to 300 megahertz. 4A. 5, who may receive telemetry from a space station? Note the word receive. Anyone can. 5D. You don't need a license for reception. And 6, what device increases the transmitted output power from a transceiver? That would be an RF power amplifier. 6D. And 7, what electronic component allows current to flow in only one direction? That would be a diode. 7D. And 8, what is the Internet Radio Linking Project? It is a technique to connect amateur radio systems, such as repeaters, via the Internet using voice over IP protocol. 8D. And 9, which of the following is included in packet radio transmissions? All of those. A header that contains the call sign of the station to which the information is being sent, automatic repeat request in case of error, and a checksum that permits error detection. 9D. And 10, with which countries are FCC licensed amateur radio stations prohibited from exchanging communications? Any country whose administration has notified the International Telecommunications Union that it objects to such communications. 10A. And 11, what reading on an SWR meter indicates a perfect impedance match? 1 to 1, or 1:1, 11B. And 12, who is responsible for ensuring that no person is exposed to RF energy above the FCC exposure limits? The station licensee is responsible. 12B. And 13, what is the unit of capacitance? That's the farad. 13C. And 14, which of the following is a resonant or tuned circuit? It's an inductor and a capacitor in series or parallel. 14D. And 15, on which HF bands does a technician class operator have phone privileges? 10-meter band only. 15B. And 16, which agency regulates and enforces the rules for the amateur radio service in the U.S.? That would be the FCC. 16C. And 17, which type of modulation is commonly used for VHF and UHF voice repeaters? FM, sometimes phase modulation, so FM or PM. 17D. And 18, how many milliamperes is 1.5 amperes? 1,500 milliamperes is equal to 1.5 amperes. 18A. And 19, which of the following could you use to cure distorted audio caused by RF current on the shield of a microphone cable? That would be a ferrite choke. 19D. And 20, which is of the following is an example of automatic control? Repeaters use automatic control. 20D. And 21, what is the effect of excessive microphone gain on SSB transmissions? Distorted transmitter audio. 21D. And 22, what should be done to all external ground rods or earth connections? Bond them together with heavy wire or conductive strap. 22C. And 23, what is a benefit of low SWR? You have reduced signal loss, both in transmission and reception. 23A. And 24, what type of component is often used as an adjustable volume control? That's a potentiometer. 24B. 25, which of the following indicates that a station is listening on a repeater and looking for a contact? The station's call sign, your call sign, followed by the word monitoring. 25D. And 26, which of the following types of propagation is most commonly associated with occasional strong signals on the 10, 6, and 2-meter bands from beyond the radio horizon? That is sporadic E propagation. 26A. And 27, which of the following types of antenna offers the greatest gain? That would be the Yagi antenna. 27C. And 28, which of the following results from the fact that signals propagated by the ionosphere are elliptically polarized? Either vertically or horizontally polarized antennas may be used for transmission or reception. 28A. And 29, what technique is used to ensure that voice messages containing unusual words are received correctly? Spell the words using a standard phonetic alphabet. 29D. And 30, which of the following connections is made between a computer and a transceiver to use computer software when operating digital modes? The trick here is we want to get an output connected to an input, and so the only one that's there is computer line in to the transceiver's speaker output connector. 30C. And which instrument is used to measure electric current? That's an ammeter. 31C. And 32, which of the following self-assigned indicators are acceptable when using a phone transmission? And you see we have stroke W3 or slant W3 or slash W3. All of those choices are correct. 32C. And what is the grace period for renewal if an amateur license expires? 2 years. 33B. And 34, what describes the number of times per second that an alternating current makes a complete cycle? That's also known as frequency. 34D. And 35, What is component 6 in this figure? That is a capacitor, 35C. So did you have 26 correct, or no more than 9 wrong answers? If so, you pass. All right, that's practice test number 1. We're going to now take a 5-minute break, get up and move around and stretch. And let's see if we can have your brain do some exercise again on our very last practice test and our very last section in the class. 5 minutes away. welcome back. Here we are again for another 35 question practice test. This will be practice test number 20 in this series, and both 19 and 20 will be available to you as PDF files tomorrow morning when I put them into the practice test folder in the link that you have in the description box on YouTube, or the one that I'll send you if you get our regular emails. So again, if you would, get out a blank piece of paper, number it from 1 to 35, same thing that we did before. Again, wishing you the best of luck, but you've got this. And here is question number 1. And question number 2. And question number 3. And here's question 4. And question 5 is the schematic. What is component 3 in the figure? And here is question number 6. And now we have question number 7. Question 8. And now question 9. And here's question 10. And now, question 11. And here we go with question 12. And here is question 13. And question 14. And now, question 15. Here is question 16. And question 17. Question 18. Question 19. And here is question 20. And question 21. And here comes question 22. Now we have 23. Here is question 24. Here is question 25. Next up is 26. And now 27. And 28. And here we go with 29. Here comes question 30. And now 31. Here's question 32. Question 33. Here comes question 34. And last question, 35. Are there any questions you'd like me to go back to so you could review? If you're in the Zoom classroom, just unmute and let me know. And I apologize to David, I missed you before, but are there any questions? And if you're watching on YouTube, just put it in the chat and I'll try to go back. I'm not hearing anything from the Zoom classroom. And I'm not seeing anything in the chat on YouTube. All right, let's move on ahead. How did we do? Question 1, how much current is required to deliver 120 watts at a voltage of 12 volts DC? That's 120 divided by 12, or 10 amperes, 1A. And what is the relationship between wavelength and frequency? Wavelength gets shorter as frequency increases, 2B. And 3, what electrical parameter is controlled by a potentiometer? That's resistance, 3A. 4, what is the minimum safe distance from a power line to allow when installing an antenna? Remember the 10-foot rule. Enough so that if the antenna falls, no part of it can come closer than 10 feet to the power lines, 4A. 5, in our schematic, what is component 3? That is a variable inductor, 5D. And 6, what term describes the use of subaudible tones transmitted along with normal voice audio to open the squelch of a receiver? That's CTCSS, 6C. And 7, what is the name of a device that combines several semiconductors and other components into one package? That's an integrated circuit, 7B. And 8, electrical current is measured in which of the following units? Amperes, 8D. And 9, which of the following is included in packet radio transmissions? All of these, checksum that permits error detection, automatic repeat request is involved, and a header that contains the call sign of the station to which the information is being sent. This is repeated from the previous test. The repeats should be like old friends that you see once again and go, oh, I know you. 10, which decibel value most closely represents a power decrease from 12 watts to 3 watts? That's a 4 times decrease, or minus 6 dB, 10B. And 11, why should the outer jacket of coaxial cable be resistant to UV light? Ultraviolet light can damage the jacket and allow water to enter the cable. Remember, moisture is always the problem, 11D. And 12, what types of amateur stations can automatically retransmit the signals of other amateur stations? Repeaters, auxiliary, or space stations, 12C. And 13, which of the following could you use to cure distorted audio caused by RF current on the shield of a microphone cable? That would be a ferrite choke, 13C. And 14, what is the effect of excessive microphone gain on single sideband transmissions? Distorted transmitted audio, 14A. And 15, what is an amateur station's control point? It's the location at which the control operator function is performed, 15D. And 16, how often must you identify with your FCC assigned call sign when using tactical call signs, such as race headquarters? At the end of each communication and every 10 minutes during a communication, 16A. And 17, which of the following actions can reduce exposure to RF radiation? The only thing you can do would be relocate antennas. The other things don't help. 17B. And 18, which of the following types of propagation is most commonly associated with occasional strong signals on the 10, 6, and 2 meter bands from beyond the radio horizon? Again, a repeat, sporadic E propagation, 18B. And 19, why are short heavy gauge wires used for a transceiver's DC power connection? To minimize voltage drop on the wire when transmitting. That's when the most current is being drawn, is when you transmit. So 19A. And 20, what is a grid locator? It's a letter number designator assigned to a geographic location. And 21, what is the current in a circuit with an applied voltage of 120 volts and a resistance of 80 ohms? 120 divided by 80 is 1.5 amperes, 21D. And 22, what is the effect of fog and rain on signals in the 10 meter and 6 meter bands? There is little effect, 22A. Their wavelengths are too big. And 23, which of the following is part of the basis and purpose of the amateur radio service? Remember, you're an artiste. Advancing skills in the technical and communication phases of the radio art, 23C. And 24, what health hazard is presented by electrical current flowing through the body? All of these. It may cause injury by heating tissue, it may cause involuntary muscle contractions, it may disrupt the electrical functions of cells, so 24D. 25, what are the names for the electrodes of a diode? That would be the anode and the cathode, 25A. And 26, what is meant by repeater offset? That is the difference between a repeater's transmit and receive frequencies, 26C. 27, what technique is used to ensure that voice messages containing unusual words are received correctly? Spell the words using a standard phonetic alphabet, 27D. And 28, what is the characteristic appearance of a cold tin lead solder joint? That would be a rough or lumpy surface, 28D. 29, what is the approximate length in inches of a quarter wavelength vertical antenna for 146 megahertz? That's the 2 meter band, 19 inches, 29A. And 30, what is meant by the statement that a satellite is operating in UV mode? That means the satellite uplink is in the 70 centimeter band, or UHF, and the downlink is in the 2 meter band, or VHF, UV, 30D. And which amateurs may contact the International Space Station on VHF bands? Any amateur holding a technician class or higher license, 31A. And 32, which type of voice mode is often used for long-distance, weak signal contacts on the VHF and UHF bands? That would be single sideband, or SSB, 32C. And what is the function of a transceiver's PTT input? That's push to talk. It switches transceiver from receive to transmit when it's grounded, 33A. And for which license classes are new licenses currently available from the FCC? That would be Technician, General, and Amateur Extra, 34D. And 35, what happens as the frequency of a signal in coaxial cable is increased? When the frequency is increased, the loss increases, 35C. So once again, we want to have 26 correct. I hope you did great. But right now I can announce that school is out. We have completed the technician class. I'm so proud of you for hanging in there and for being with us. I thank you so much. If you'd like to help us out, our classes are always free, but we do have expenses, and there is a donation link at my website, w4eey.com. You can see right there in the middle, there's a PayPal donation link. And please send me an email. Let us know how you did when you took your test, because you will pass. I want you to pass. And if not, we'll get you passed eventually. We're still here for you. And thank you. Thank you for being a great class, for being with us. We appreciate you very much. And I want to thank these guys over here. There's Bruce in the front and Marion in the back. They've been pushing the buttons, keeping things organized for us. And my sincerest thanks to you all as well. So that's it. Your Wednesday nights are free now. Go take your test. Go get your ham radio license. And I will see you on the air. Until then, 73.